What's up, Canada? This is former WWE superstar, wrestling worldwide superstar, Snitsky, and I'm here to review my career from all the way back to Nesquehoning, all the way up to today, right here, live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, for the Hannibal TV, right there in Canada, Ontario, Canada. Check it out. If you don't, it's not my fault.
This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com, and I'm with former WWE superstar Gene Snitsky, who was also in ECW that was put on by WWE, and he's also an actor. How are you doing today?
I'm fabulous. How are you today, Mr.
Good.
Hannibal?
You got your Philadelphia Eagles cap on. Are you a Philadelphia fan?
Oh yeah, diehard. Been diehard Eagles fan, bleeding green since I'm a little kid, and actually Coach Reed was actually my offensive line coach at Missouri, so I have a lot of history with Philly, but yep, definitely a diehard Eagles fan.
To start this off, if you could just tell us where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
I grew up in a small coal mining town, Nesquehoning, Pennsylvania. Basically, southern tip of the Poconos, right outside of Jim Thorpe. Most people know where Jim Thorpe is. Normal childhood. My parents are awesome. I still, fortunately have them both. They're still alive, still living in Nesquehoning, and just your run-of-the-mill small-town USA stuff. We had one stoplight, and it was a good time growing up in the 70s and 80s back in good old Nesquehoning.
You mentioned you played football. Was that the main sport you played when you were younger?
Actually, played basketball, football, baseball. Did them all. It was starting center for the Keystone State Games in Pennsylvania in basketball, which was like the Pennsylvania State Olympics.
Yeah.
And went to camps for tryouts, and then they picked a handful of guys to go try out for the team, and then was fortunate enough to make the team, and that was a nice experience doing that. Football, first team All-State, played in the first championship team in the history of my high school. Signed a full scholarship to play at Missouri. Got recruited by pretty much every school in the country, but chose Missouri, went out to Mizzou, played there from 88 to 93. Signed with the Chargers. After college, I went to the NFL Combines, did all that. At camp with the Chargers, aggravated a pre-existing injury that they misdiagnosed at Missouri. They thought I had subluxed my shoulder, but I actually tore my labrum. So a couple months into San Diego, I had to get surgery done, got the labrum repaired, came back, played in the CFL for the Birmingham Barracudas for a little bit, retired from football in 95, started training to wrestle in 96.
How was the CFL expansion league?
Terrible. No offense to my Canadian friends out there, but it wasn't what I had expected. It was pretty much like playing college football again. Like you had to bring your own equipment and stuff like that. It was crazy. I was like, this is pro football. I guess just because it was the expansion. They were trying to expand it in the United States and do the American teams. So, I could see why it was like that. But at that point in my career, with the shoulder and, wasn't really that great of money at the time. Just kind of retired from football in 95, and then always wanted to wrestle. Watched it as a kid, was always, enthralled with the characters and the larger-than-life personas, and just always wanted to do it. So I was like, oh, well, now's my chance. So I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. So,
do you think the XFL is going to do better this time around?
Well, they can't do any worse. I think they had good ratings one week, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're folding. So if they make it through one season with, making actual profits, I hope they do. I think it's cool. I like the concept. I love the concept back when they first did it. Unfortunately, the guys weren't very good. No knock on the guys, but you're watching NFL football, and then you watch XFL, and it's kind of like night and day, really. But the concept was cool. All their little niches they had. And now the NFL uses their camera system, because they started with that zoom-in camera from on top with the cables. That's where the NFL got it from. So, all in all, it was a pretty cool deal. And actually jokingly put on Twitter one time that I was going to try out for the XFL. Is it a joke or not? We'll have to find out.
They're paying less than the CFL, I guess, overall at this point, so I don't know how tempted it would be financially. But you have the size still to make it.
I would do it just for shits and grins, just to see if I could still play, Because I'm very competitive, my wife will tell you. My lovely wife, Carolyn, who's one of my biggest supporters and pushes me in the gym. We have a gym in our basement, so every day I get challenged by my hot wife, who's very jacked and loves working out as well. So it gets interesting down at the dungeon. So.
Do you guys have any kids? Because I imagine they're going to be pretty big if you do.
No, unfortunately, at this point in my life, I'm not really looking to have kids. But she has a couple grown kids already, and they are very tall and athletic. Her daughter's played softball, volleyball. I think one daughter played on a state championship team, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, but it'd be kind of cool to go back in time and see what would have happened. But at this point in my life, I'm a big enough kid. She has her hands full with me. So.
But you're saying seriously about the XFL, there is a chance if you were given like a tryout or an invitation to a combine, you would go.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
So I think I could still play. I mean, I see some of those guys, and it's like, whew, I should have maybe tried to come back a third time from football.
We'll definitely put that out there, see if we can gather any steam on that. So you said you were a wrestling fan growing up. Did you have any favorites?
Actually, the story behind how I got involved in watching wrestling, I was kind of just flipping through the channels as a 10-year-old, came across a Hulk Hogan promo, and I was like, man, this guy's pretty intense. It's pretty cool. And, all big and jacked up, and like as a kid, you're like, oh man, this is pretty cool. So that's kind of how I got hooked on wrestling. And then where I grew up in Pennsylvania, it was on all the time. Saturday Superstars, and the Ag Hall in Allentown was a big thing, and Hamburg Fieldhouse. So I kind of grew up right in the hotbed of wrestling. So it's kind of just a natural progression for me. I was always the type of kid that would do anything on a dare or do anything to try to get a laugh out of somebody, or, class clown type of guy. So it kind of fit my persona, my attitude, because I never really took anything serious. I was joking around at the movie premiere that I had. I was like, well, I guess all my teachers from back in the day that would yell at me for screwing around and not taking anything seriously, I could have the last laugh now, because I've never taken anything too seriously, and played in the NFL, wrestled in WWE, and now a successful movie producer. So I guess they were all wrong.
Who did you go to for training when you wanted to get into it?
I kind of just meandered through the indies for a little bit on my own, and then hooked up with Alpha Hanawai, better known as the Wild Samoans. He had a camp in Allentown, so I was lucky enough to latch on with those guys and had a tryout with his son Samu, and they brought me on a tour of the Middle East and South Pacific, and I did really well, so they invited me to train at their camp. And then started training in Allentown, doing shows for Federation WXW, and just kind of picked it up really fast. Like I said, I've always, very competitive, love athletics, and, being the class clown kind of guy, fit my, my attitude perfect. So kind of just evolved into the transition into wrestling rather easily. I was fortunate enough to, like I said, pick it up fast, and the training was rather easy, to be honest with you. Like, coming from a football background, I was prepared for the physicality of it, and was just fortunate enough to get in with the right people at the right time. And Pops was always, one of my biggest supporters, and always pushed me and tried to make me better, and eventually got me a dark match with WWE in Wilkes-Barre in 2003. Actually, I think it was on Halloween 2003 in Wilkes-Barre. Wrestled another fellow WXW alumni, Tommy Swade. Him and I must have had a good enough match, because I got signed that next year in January, I think, or February, and then they brought me in June to OVW to start training. So it's basically how it all happened.
Was it John Laurinaitis who you were dealing with when you were signed? Yeah,
he called me to tell me that they wanted to bring me in, and moved out to Louisville, went through OVW with Danny Davis, and was fortunate enough again to pick it up fast to their system, and started, let's see, June, July, the end of June or the start of July, I think it was, until I actually started OVW. And in that September, I was on TV at WWE on Raw already, so I was pretty fortunate to get through it pretty fast.
Was Jim Cornette still involved in OVW at that time?
Yeah, yep.
Do you have any stories about him or any interaction?
Nothing that really jumps out at me. I mean, he was just, he's a great mind in the business, so I'd always pick his brain, but I mean, I wasn't really there that long.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was like 3 months, 4 months, so basically my interaction was just, at the arena with him, going over to shows, because I still did the OVW stuff, but yeah, I mean, I always had a great relationship with everybody there, so I didn't really have any issues or stories I mean, he's, an eccentric guy. He's, everybody knows about Jim Cornette. He's Jim Cornette. Free speech kind of guy, says what he has on his mind, and if you like it, great. If not, that's great too. He doesn't really seem to mind.
Is there anyone else you were training with at the time there that went on to significant fame?
Yeah, lots of guys. Lashley, Chris Masters, Joey Mercury, Johnny Morrison. I mean, the list goes on and on. Pretty much everybody that went through there at the time got called up to WWE and was successful. Daivari, the heck was the other guy? Mark Capani, he did the Arab character. Oh, Muhammad, yeah. They were all there with me. So, yeah, Bill DeMott was one of the trainers at the time, and he did a lot of work with the bigger guys. And Lance Storm was there, and he did a lot of the stuff with the smaller guys, so I got to work a lot with Bill and, hone my craft. Because Bill was always, one of the more athletic, bigger guys. So it was cool to work with him and work on some new stuff and learn the psychology through those guys. So, yeah, it was fun. It was a great group of guys. We were just talking about that. I just ran into Molina at the convention, and we were talking about the great crew that we had back then. So,
is it true that your Raw match versus Kane when you debuted was supposed to only be a one-time thing?
I found out post-match, like maybe a week or two later, that was only supposed to be a one-time thing, but when it happened and they started chanting "Baby Killer," I kind of thought to myself, "Oh, this is good," because obviously as a heel you want to get some type of result or reaction or heat, it's called in the business. So once I heard that, I was like, "Oh, this might have some legs." So they were kind of forced to use me.
How was he to work with behind the scenes?
Glenn's awesome, man. I still keep in touch with him. He kind of took me under his wing and kind of molded me and helped me along because I was, very new to the scene. Like I said, I signed in June and was on TV in September. So without him, without his blessing, I probably wouldn't have stayed around because, he could have easily said, "Hey, I don't want to work with this guy." And then I wouldn't have been there. So.
And Lita was also involved in that angle, obviously. How was she to work with?
No, she was great. Amy's awesome. I had a lot of fun working with her, Edge, all those guys. It was a cool little story, and got over really well. And wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for that storyline. So it's funny how every day of my life now, for the last 15 years, I get, "It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not my fault." I'm like, nah. So it resonated with everyone, which is cool because as a performer, you want a reaction, you want something to resonate with the crowd, so must have did something right because 14, 15 years later, I still get it every single day of my life, so.
And you didn't mind the foot stuff, I guess?
No, I actually have a foot fetish in real life, so I kind of went to Vince and I was like, "Hey, if there's any way we could integrate it into the character, I think it would add to the craziness of the character," because they wanted me to be as big and crazy and psychotic as possible, so I was like, let's try that, and he was like, "Oh, okay." It was as simple as that.
So you and Tony Atlas would get along well, I guess, if you've heard.
Tony's got a shoe fetish. I like the feet. Tony likes getting kicked in the face with boots and stuff. I'm not into that.
You're just more of a foot admirer.
I'm more of a foot connoisseur. Yeah, don't want my wife kicking me in the face anytime soon.
And you worked with Heidenreich, who's I don't know, I guess a little bit out there as well. Any thoughts on working with him?
John was great. I mean, he actually trained at OVW with us as well, and always got along great with John. He was always super easy to work with. I mean, one of our infamous backstage segments always gets, interesting reactions. And, I mean, overall, everything I did there was fun. I just, fortunately enough, I had a lot of, memorable things, because I've made, the top 50 oh my god moments, the top Royal Rumble eliminations. I've had, in the 5 years I was there, I got a lot of cool things accomplished. So, I mean, it's kind of neat that forever in the infamous history of pro wrestling, they'll remember me for something. So it's kind of cool.
Heidenreich was also in the CFL as well, but his knees took a real beating, and he's not getting around too well these days.
Yeah, he played for, I think, the Saints, too, for a little bit.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And you were on Triple H's team at Survivor Series. How was he to work with?
He has his moments. I mean, he likes having everything his way. It's, it is what it is. But, a lot of times, if you shot an idea by him, he'd shoot it down, or, try to put his spin on it. But yeah, that's cool. It was fun. The match was awesome until Maven broke my orbital bone. Then it was not fun. But
how did he do that?
Oh, he was supposed to come off the ropes and hit me in the chest with a flying forearm, but his flying forearm turned into a flying elbow into the crest of my eye socket. And my eyelid, if you go back on YouTube or whatever and watch it, it's my eyelid's freaking hanging down over my eye. I have a gash this big and blood everywhere, and I was like, oh man. But the nice thing about it is I got to hit him with a chair afterwards, so I bent the chair.
Why do you think he never really got over? They tried to give him a big push. He was the tough enough winner, but he kind of faded away.
The thing about pro wrestling is you just never know, man. My situation, the craziest stuff, people remember.
Yeah.
And it sticks with them. I don't know. It's just, I guess, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, it's literally taking a piece of spaghetti, throwing it on the wall, and seeing if it sticks. I mean, that's how it was when I was there. They'll just try something, and if it goes, it goes. If not, then hey, there's always somebody there waiting to take your spot. I mean, that's the ironic truth of pro wrestling. If you can't get it done, or doesn't cut it, or your character's not getting over, always somebody there to come in and try to do it.
That's true. And you also worked with Chris Benoit. What was he like, and did you see anything, knowing him as a person, that you would expect what ultimately happened with him?
No, Chris was great, man. I had some of my best matches with Chris, to be honest with you. When we were doing that little ECW thing with WWE, him and I had a long stretch where we were wrestling on house shows, wrestling on TV, and like I said, some of my best matches were with him. I'm very proud of my work with Chris, and we had good, solid, hard-hitting matches. And honestly, to this day, I still think there's more to it than what meets the eye, because, I mean, I know knew Chris personally, and never in a million years would I have thought that would have happened, but you never know. I mean, obviously something happened, and I'm not an investigator by any means, or a criminologist, but it's very out of character, if you ask me. Someone who knew him personally and saw him every day, it's, nothing I would have ever expected happening.
And Shelton Benjamin, you also had matches with. He's still kicking around in there. How is he to work with? Shelton's great. Shelton's still one of my best buddies. Actually, I took my wife up to see the guys in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania when they were up there. And he's one of the first guys I saw. I was like, we started laughing, telling old stories, and introduced him to my wife, and then just hung out with him for 20, 30 minutes and caught up. But yeah, he's awesome. We've always gone along great. Always share a good laugh when Shelton and I get together. And you had a famous Lumberjack match with John Cena on Raw. Was that one of your big moments of your career?
I guess it depends on who you ask. I mean, it's cool wrestling John. I've wrestled him a bunch of times. He actually broke my ribs. He does that side slam thing out of the corner, and all 250 pounds of him came down right on my rib. And I still have the little calcification on my ribs, and I always joke around with people. I'm like, feel that? Oh my God. I was like, yeah, John Cena did that. Goofing around. They're like, really? It's funny. So, yeah. No, John's a good guy.
Is he as serious as he comes across as?
No, he's actually pretty silly, I guess would be a good word. Like, he likes to goof around, have a good time. Like, there's a lot of times where, like if we're at an airport or got stuck somewhere, we'd sit and polish off a bottle of whiskey or something and just goof around. Like, he's a super nice guy. Yeah. How
was Tyson Tomko?
Tyson was great. I think we should have been the tag team champs. Him and I had a nice little run there, and then we'd always end up losing the Big Show and Kane. But no, we were getting over pretty good. I like him. I mean, him and I worked well together, and it's hindsight's always 20/20, and you could look back and say this should have happened, or this could have happened, or that could have happened. But I mean, that's one thing I definitely think that WWE dropped the ball on. I think with the way we looked and just our style of wrestling, it would have been good to have us as the tag team champs.
Have you heard from him at all? I haven't heard from him.
I'm friends with him on Facebook and stuff like that. I'll talk to him on there. He's doing gyms, I think, now down in Florida.
Okay.
He has like a couple of gyms or something like that, him and his wife. His wife's like a bodybuilder. She's, I think she's just won a couple competitions and stuff too. So,
okay.
Yeah,
he's out of wrestling, I guess.
Yeah, he's not doing anything with wrestling anymore, I don't think, at all.
And the Big Show, you just mentioned him. How was he to be in the ring with?
He's fine. Yeah, I had pretty good solid matches with him too. So, I think we did I wrestled him in a pay-per-view. I think once. We had a little build-up to a pay-per-view match, and I remember one time he hit me with a sink. We did hardcore? Something like that. And he actually pulled the sink from under the ring.
Wow.
And hit me with it. It's pretty funny. Because it's like, oh, he hit him with everything and the kitchen sink.
People always say he's a funny guy backstage. Did you ever notice that about him?
Yeah, he's a jokester. Everybody for the most part likes to have fun and pass the time, because you're together all the time. You're on the road, you're traveling, you're flying somewhere. Like, for instance, when we did the European tours, we'd be on the road for 17 days. And we'd all be together all the time. So you got to kind of, pass the time, get along, have fun, try to do what you can to create that camaraderie with the crew, because you're together all the time.
Yeah. That's where some people snap on those long tours.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I mean, you beat yourself up pretty good. Like, I came home from one time and I slept for like 2 days straight. I was beat. You're going to different time zones. You're on a plane. You're in an arena. You're in a hotel. Just kind of turns into the revolving door, But I didn't mind the traveling part of it.
And you were gaining some momentum teaming with Goldust, but I guess they released him kind of just as that was building.
We were actually supposed to get the straps because Goldust's dad was on the creative team at the time, and he would always buzz me on like what they were going to be doing. So we were supposed to get merch, tag team belts, everything, but he was going through a divorce with his wife, and I didn't get too involved in the personal side of it, so I just kind of was like, do what you got to do and take care of yourself, because it's ultimately the important thing. I mean, wrestling is just wrestling. I don't want to see anybody like suffer mental illness or something because of wrestling. So, I was like, hey, do what you got to do. It is what it is. But yeah, it would have been cool. I mean, we had great chemistry. We had a lot of fun wrestling together, a lot of fun outside the ring. Probably one of my still favorite guys to work with. So, but hey, like I said earlier, everything happens for a reason. So
maybe we'll see that in AEW down the road.
Never say never in wrestling, man. Never say never.
When you went over to ECW, they changed your gimmick, going over the top a bit with your appearance. Was that your idea or the creative idea? No,
Vince actually came up to me one time at the ring, where we used to all go out to the ring and like practice stuff and work on moves and just wrestling around. And he called me over and he's like, hey, I want you to shave off all your hair. I'm like, okay. He's like, and your eyebrows. I'm like, all right. He's like, and go see the makeup lady and see what they can do to make your teeth look bad. I was like, okay. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that, but got another action figure out of it. So kind of, it is what it is. But I was always a team player, and did what the boss said. So I went and did it, and I was getting a great push too. I came out and squashed Lashley, squashed Punk, Balls Mahoney. I think I jumped. So I was getting like a lot of momentum, and then one day Steph comes up to me backstage. She's like, "Oh, my dad just loves what you're doing on ECW. We're gonna do the draft and draft you back to Raw." And I was kind of like, why? So I was always confused about that. I don't know why that happened, but that kind of took away the whole momentum that we built in ECW. And then didn't really do much after that with the Raw, because I don't think they knew what to do with me, to be quite honest with you. And I would shoot ideas to them and blah, blah, blah. And, it just ultimately came down to, I went and talked to Vince, and I was like, look, man, I never sat the bench on any sport I ever played. I didn't want to work my way up to WWE to watch the show. I wanted to be on the show. So, if there's nothing for me to do, I don't want to be here just collecting a paycheck. And ironically, 2 days later, I got released. So.
Now, you mentioned you squashed CM Punk. Did you have any memories of working with him in ECW?
Not really. When I got drafted back to Raw, he broke my nose with his finisher one time because I was too heavy for him. He'll probably won't admit it, but he couldn't really hold me too well. And freaking cracked me square in the face with that GTS finisher thing. Broke my nose, and I was like, oh, awesome. So I was in the middle of New Orleans with a busted nose, broken and bloody, and couldn't breathe. And yeah, it was fun. Said no one ever.
And you worked with Val Venus as well, who's one of the famous characters in wrestling. Any thoughts on him?
Val's great. He's another guy that helped me out when I was first starting, because I wrestled him a lot on house shows. And just, guiding me through the process, and, because, backstage in WWE is a whole different world, man. It's like, there's really no way to describe it unless you're there and have done it. It's just it's like a small fraternity of people that the outside world never would really understand, basically.
And there's a lot of politics involved as well.
Yeah. I was never a political kind of guy, so I didn't really, try to brown nose anybody to get my spot, because as a kid, my mom and dad would always tell me, cream always rises to the top, so just be the best you could be, and if you're the best, you'll get noticed, and if not, then just try harder.
What were your personal interactions with Vince like, since you were working with him for a bit there doing the Sun angle?
He was great. I never had any issues with Vince, and like I said, I went right to him, and I was like, look, man, I don't want to be here collecting a paycheck, because I didn't. I don't want to be there just being a rah-rah guy. I want to be in the mix, It's just how I am. I don't want to watch the show, I want to be on the show.
And you eventually popped up in TNA. How did that whole situation come about?
Well, Dave Lagana reached out to me. He was one of the writers at WWE when I was there, and he reached out to me, and he's like, oh, we got this idea, blah, blah, blah. And at the time, they had said they was going to lead to something, and, that whole deal, and it never really materialized because of the money aspect and all that kind of stuff. And I was just kind of like, well, do I really want to do this and not get paid what I think I should get paid, or just, nip it in the bud? So kind of just nipped it in the bud and moved on and did my own thing. And, like I said, man, I'm not one of those guys that just is along for the ride. I think very highly of myself. I know I'm a good athlete. I know I have charisma. I know I could, do whatever they ask me to do and do it well. So I wasn't just going to settle,
What was working with The Undertaker like?
Challenging sometimes, because he's like The Undertaker, you know what I mean? So it's like, if you couldn't keep up with them, they kind of shunned you to the side and then brought somebody else in. So it was fun. He's a great guy. I don't know what the word would be. He's just like kind of the guy there. Like, he could do whatever he wants, and Vince, obviously loves him and all that. So it was kind of challenging breaking in to that whole scene, like getting involved in storylines with him and stuff. But I never had any issues with him. We got along fine. Yeah, just a couple things here and there. Maybe like with me and Heidenreich. I don't know. They were sort of kind of hinting that they were going to do me and Heidenreich against him and Kane, and then that never materialized. But I mean, in WWE, they always do that. They start something and then go to something else and something else and something else. They're kind of known for that. So it wasn't surprising, but it would have been cool to be able to do like a little program with them. But it is what it is.
Did you ever get to do anything with him outside of the ring when you guys were traveling?
No, he kind of stayed to himself.
Balls Mahoney, you also worked with him. Did you have any thoughts on him?
Balls was great, man. He was one of those guys. He would do anything to make the match better. Crazy. Just, look at his track record, man. Like the stuff they used to do back in the original ECW was just off the wall, But great guy. It's a sad, situation that he passed away as young as he did and everything. But no, had no issues with him whatsoever. He was fun to work with. Always easy to set the match up with. I actually wrestled him a bunch of times after WWE on the Indies, and always had really good, solid matches with him. And I know his wife Gail real well, and all that. So he's definitely missed. He was definitely one of those characters that was good for wrestling.
If you had full creative control of your character in WWE, how would you have made your character?
I probably would have stuck more with the ECW version. I think that was getting over really well. Like, it was getting a good response from the crowd. It was creepy, it was scary. The vignettes we were doing, like, kind of made you, like, hair stand up on your back kind of thing. So that was fun. I enjoyed doing those. I was kind of bummed out when Steph was like, hey, we're going to draft it back to Raw. Because I was kind of just getting into the flow of the ECW thing, Yeah. And it was fun. But, I probably would have stuck more with that type of character and just kind of rode that out. I think it was definitely heading in the right direction. I was kind of, like I said, upset that it, didn't get a chance to really come to fruition. But like I said, that's what happens there. They start running with something, and then it's like, for unknown reasons, they go in another direction. But that's the world of wrestling.
What was Batista like backstage? I guess you're probably trained by the same guy at Alpha, so you may have had a connection there.
Yeah, Dave's great. Thrilled for all the success he's had with the movies and everything. I still talk to his mom on Facebook and all that stuff. And Dave's another Wild Samoan trainee, and just I actually spent a lot of time with him outside the ring. He's a real good guy. Just, obviously, because we trained at the same place and came through the same what's the word I'm thinking of? Anyways, came up through the same ranks and stuff, so it was, it was cool. It's cool to see him like in the movies now. It's kind of cool to, watch Guardians of the Galaxy and
yeah,
it's kind of neat.
Yeah, he's getting in bigger and bigger movies all the time now, it seems.
Yeah, the James Bond movie he did was good too. I enjoyed that. No, it's good for him, man. I'm happy for him. I'm glad he's, found his niche and getting the work that he's getting, because it is good. I think he started out as a better actor than The Rock. When The Rock first started, he wasn't a very good actor. Now The Rock's awesome, but when, like, comparatively speaking, Dave starting to The Rock starting, I think Dave was a little better.
Did you ever train together on the road in the gym?
We actually did. We worked out a couple of times together. Yeah. No, like I said, man, I've hung out with him, and we've done stuff outside the ring and partied together and hung out. Super nice guy. Yeah. No issues with him whatsoever.
What are some of your best lifts in the gym?
My best bench ever was 485. I just squatted 500 not long ago. Deadlifted 6. Did 225 for 30. What did I do? 33. Was it 30? 30, right? 225 for 30 reps not long ago. So yeah, still hit it pretty hard.
Did you have much interaction with Dixie Carter when you were in TNA?
Not really. She was kind of like in her own little room, and did a couple vignettes with her if I remember correctly, but that was about it. Never really like hung out with her, talked to her, or nothing like that. It was more of like when we were getting ready to shoot, there she was, and it was due to stuff, and there she went. You know.
What was the worst injury you ever suffered in the wrestling business?
Probably the broken orbital bone. I mean, that was just a pain in the butt. I was seeing double and triple for like 2-3 weeks, which is not fun. When you're looking at something and you're like trying to focus and everything's all over the place, wasn't fun. And then of course, you know, luckily, thank goodness I didn't like, the doctor was telling me sometimes if you break your orbital bone, your eye could sink into the socket kind of thing. So I was lucky that didn't happen. I didn't have surgery, I didn't need surgery or anything. I just got like 17 stitches or something like that. It was a pretty nasty cut, yeah.
The fans wanted me to ask you if you had any good rib stories.
Don't really have any good rib stories. I have a good foot fetish story. The one time we were flying overseas somewhere in Shelton Benjamin, speaking of Shelton, he would always egg me on. So he's like, finds this girl and he's like, hey Snitsky, this girl wants her toe sucked. I'm like, he's like, no, seriously. I'm like, all right, whatever. Because like I said, I was always a class count kind of guy. I'd do whatever just to get a pop from the boys. So I went out, did my thing. And this other girl's yelling, can I be next? Can I be next? And Shelton's like laughing like a hyena. And it was like on a plane in the, like just flying to Europe somewhere. And it was like, this is funny. Yeah.
Eric Bischoff was, I think, Raw GM when you were working there. Did you have any interaction with him? Yeah,
Eric was great. I always, you know, got along great with Eric. I mean, I don't know the backstage scene, like how he was with Vince and all that, but I mean, the segments I did with him came out pretty good, I thought. Like, we did a lot of vignettes and stuff like that, and I always enjoyed it.
Is there any wrestler that's passed away that you were close with?
Yeah, Umaga Eki. He was him and I traveled together, and I trained with his family and know his nephews really well. And Rikishi was, you know, real tight. Him and I are still tight, and his son's now the Usos. And I remember when Umaga brought the Usos to a show in Texas to, you know, introduce them to everybody. So it's funny, like, how everything's come around. Like, now they're like this big tag team and several time champions and all that. So it's kind of cool. And I used to travel with Matt Anawahi as well. He was part of 3 Minute Warning and all that with Hurricane. And, you know, obviously, you know, Joe's his brother, Roman Reigns. So it's kind of cool seeing his success, because I remember, like, when Matt and I would be traveling somewhere, he'd be on the phone talking to him, and he was playing football at Georgia Tech at the time. So it's kind of neat how everything's coming full circle, but sucks that they're both passed on. But, you know, probably two of the best athletes you'll ever come across for their size. I mean, those guys could do anything, and they were all, you know, well over 300 pounds. But we shared a lot of fun times on the road, a lot of good laughs and a lot of good stories. But sucks that they're gone, but you know, the memories live on forever.
Has anyone ever been dumb enough to pick a bar fight with you?
No. No, I bounced for a while in a nightclub up in the Poconos, so it was myself, my tag team partner, and another guy that was even bigger than us, so we didn't really have any problems. Yeah.
There was a fan that says he saw you against Big Show and Kane in Ireland and wanted to know if you had any memories of being in Ireland.
Funny story with Ireland. Myself and my buddy Mike Chioda, who's still there as the senior referee, we were at some club partying and ended up going back to a house party, and we were leaving to go back to the hotel, and it was like 7 or 8 in the morning, and I was using the bathroom, and Kyoto was outside smoking a cigarette, and he had this real nice BMW jacket, and I came outside to see a bunch of guys around him trying to steal his jacket. So I came out, and he's like, Snitz, these guys are trying to steal my jacket. I was like, a problem here? And they were like, no, man, we're just trying to check out your buddy's jacket. So it's kind of funny. We almost got like a fight at 7 o'clock in the morning in Ireland somewhere. So over a BMW jacket.
There's a fan that might be asking you this because of the beard. You might look a bit like Jesus, but do you believe in God or a higher power? Someone's asking.
Well, I don't really want to discuss religion because it's kind of a taboo thing.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate the beard love. Because I have my microphone strategically hidden in my beard, so.
Did you ever go out drinking with Steve Austin?
I didn't, but I ran into him at the Firehouse in Venice Beach one time after working out at Gold's Gym. And he comes up and he goes, "It's not my fault." I was like, "Oh, it's cool." Like Stone Cold, saying your catchphrase to you. It was kind of cool. Yeah.
And I guess you did a tour with CWE in Canada. Do you remember that? They're based in Winnipeg.
Who runs it?
Danny Warren.
I did part of a tour with them. Yeah. Ended up one of them, I forget, I can't remember. Hell, that was a while ago. You're really going back now. I think maybe 2 or 3 shows I think I did. And then I split. Yeah. My lip was like half hanging off. And they didn't have, I guess the Canadian medical system, you kind of gotta...
It's very slow.
Yeah. And I was like, I didn't want to sit around and wait for my lip to get fixed.
Yeah.
So I was like...
It's like 12 hours to get stitches, sometimes more.
Oh, dude, it was ridiculous. I left the show. I went, thought I'd get stitched up and head back. Well, I was waiting, and then I never got stitched up. I just went back, finished up the show, and... I think I ended up at some nurse's house or something, and they tried to use that glue, like that
those super
medical glue or whatever the heck it is, and then it made it worse. So I was like, I had to ditch that one early. It's the only time that ever happened to me, but it was like one of those things where, do I want my lip to fall off halfway through this tour, or do I want to go get it fixed? Because I busted my lip open really bad once before when I was a kid. I was jumping, I don't remember exactly what happened, but I was jumping somewhere and my knee whacked me right in the face. And my tooth went through my lip. I still have a scar. And it was like way worse than that. So I never even got stitches, now that I think about it. I think I just ended up getting it all they had to scrape it out and let it scab over or something. That was a while ago. That's funny. You're digging deep on that one.
Do you have any memories of ECW One Night Stand 2005?
That was that was the one in Hammerstein Ballroom in New York. I think that was the big one where JBL got in a fight with Blue Meanie.
Yes.
I think that was the big to do.
You were in that battle royal, weren't you?
Yeah. I just remember they were yelling at each other in the back. I was like, and I missed it all. I didn't even know what happened. But yeah, that was fun actually. I like that. That was a great angle at the time. There was a lot of heat with that. That was good. I can remember sitting in the, because they had us in the crowd.
Yeah.
We were sitting in the crowd.
Weren't they letting you guys drink too or something?
Oh,
Was that real alcohol?
Yeah. Oh, it was great. Yeah. I was just sitting there and they kept bringing drinks. I was like, this is awesome. And that crowd was hot, man. All I remember about that was because at one point we had to walk down to the ring. And you're literally fighting through the people to get there. It was nuts. That was an awesome crowd. That place is awesome, period, to wrestle, but that night was cool. Yeah.
Do you think that because you had so many memorable moments that you could potentially be in the Hall of Fame one day?
I doubt it. I don't think so. I think, like we were talking about earlier, with just the politics of wrestling, unless you're one of their guys, I don't think so. I don't even expect it. I would never expect it. I'm just glad that people remember me all these years later. It's like I said earlier, as a performer, that's, justification that you did well. If somebody remembers your stuff, you strike the nerve with somebody. Like if you're a performer and nobody remembers you, obviously that's not, good.
Did they ever contact you about coming back because you're still in good shape?
They kind of kicked it around a couple of times, but it's one of those things where it's like, I have so much other stuff going on to just drop my whole life now and go back. It would have to be very, very lucrative for me to even consider it, to be honest with you, because I got, the shop going, I got, the stuff with the movie, I got, my wife, we're doing stuff, we got stuff going on. It's like, just to up and like drop all that after I built it all back up, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. It was, like I said, I take a lot of zeros behind the first number to think about it.
What were your thoughts on Little Guido?
Nothing in particular. Nice guy, always solid worker, real good guy. I think him and I wrestled a couple of times at the ECW version for WWE. Yeah. No, he's great. Yeah.
You wrestled RVD too.
Yeah.
Huge star.
Yeah.
How was he in the ring?
Tricky. Some of those kicks and stuff he throws, you kind of just gotta adjust on the fly because you never know where they're coming from or where they're gonna land. But as far as like setting up the matches and stuff, he was super easy to work with. Real nice guy. He was doing, I think he did a couple films and stuff too. But I think I just saw him. Where did I just see him kick up at? Isn't he back with TNA now or something?
Yeah, he's back doing part-time or something with Impact. Yeah,
he's always somewhere. But yeah, he's never really had any issues with anybody, to be honest with you. The guy got along with all the boys. I just didn't, like I said, man, I didn't want to be there collecting a paycheck. Like I consider myself worth a lot more than that. And I'm watching the show and I'm seeing guys getting a push and this guy getting a push and that guy getting a push, and I'm like, well, hell, where's my push? Why ain't I getting a push? I could be the good guy, I could be the bad guy, I could be the crazy guy, I could be the goofy guy. Obviously I could do it because I've already done it with Kane and got over huge. And they'd always give you the same story. Well, we don't have anything for you. The writers don't have anything for you. I'm like, well, look at me. I'm a walking character. How could you not have something for me?
Do you remember which writer came up with the kicking the baby segment?
At the time I was doing all my stuff with Glenn, it was Dan Madigan. He was writing all the stuff. And then he eventually went on to write Glenn's movie, See No Evil. I still actually keep in touch with him as well. He's awesome. Dan was awesome to work with. Very creative mind. Came up with a lot of cool stuff. And, Glenn's movie was awesome. I enjoyed the first one and the second one. And like I said, still keep in touch with Dan. And yeah, I'm 99.9% sure he was his creative mind.
Is there any agent that you like working with? I know they sign agents to matches there in WWE.
Arn Anderson was probably my favorite. He was awesome. Arn and I always got along great. Definitely hit it off when I was working there. He helped me out with my style and my matches and all that kind of stuff. And, always, go the extra mile kind of guy to help me. And just loved working with Arn. I see he's with AEW now, so that's cool because they kind of gave him the shaft at WWE from what I heard. So I'm glad he's, still in the business and doing well because he's got a lot to offer, man. He's I don't like throwing the word genius around much, but he's definitely got a mind for wrestling, no doubt.
Is there any wrestler that was particularly hard to work with in the ring?
Not really. The hardest part of WWE was just setting up the matches because you have all the personalities, you got all the, the personas, what's the word I want to use? A lot of guys had to have, everything laid out from A to Z, which I didn't always like doing. Like, I like a little creative liberty, but like when I was there, they were like writing everything out from start to finish, and it was like, what if something happens? And you got to be able to ad lib and do stuff on the fly. That's the only thing I didn't like having to do everything like start to finish. Well, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna do this. But that was the hardest part of WWE, was just setting up the matches. I just enjoyed performing. I still do. And I don't have any problems with anybody that jump out at me. Like I said, it was just tough to set up some matches once in a while, but ultimately they came out good, and that's all that matters. Send the people home happy and entertained. And for the money, you get your most money's worth out of pro wrestling. You go to an NFL football game, you're dropping a whole week's pay, and your team loses, you're miserable all week. You go to a WWE show, you're getting the drama, the stunts, the highs, the lows. You're happy, you're sad. You're getting the full gamut of emotions, and probably a fifth of the cost. You know, so I think the most bang for your buck definitely is pro wrestling.
Do you remember your elimination of Paul London at the Royal Rumble?
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, I think it was the number 2 ever elimination in the history of WWE, so that's kind of cool.
Did you ever wrestle Rey Mysterio?
Yeah, bunch of times. Yep.
How is he in the ring?
Easy. I mean, he's 150 pounds.
Yeah.
It's like super easy to do stuff with him because he's so light. You just toss him around and then, miss something and he fires up his comeback and it's 619. It's not, rocket science.
Is there anyone backstage in WWE that surprised you when you got back there after watching it on TV? As far as being a nice, maybe he comes off as a heel on TV, or the opposite, somebody that's nice on TV and is a dick?
I think Orton has times where he could be a dick to fans and people and stuff. But he was, like, him and I always got along good. He was always super cool with me. But a lot of people, like, see his character and they're like, what a dick. And then sometimes he is a dick. Everybody is. But, yeah, I think Randy, for the most part, probably is the most opposite of his character.
What are your top 3 favorite wrestlers of all time as a fan?
As a fan. Well, gotta put Hulk Hogan up there because he's the reason I actually stopped flipping through the channels to watch wrestling in the first place. It was a tough one. There were so many good characters back in the 80s, it's tough to put 3 into a box. That's a tough one. Oh, jeez. I hate to be cliche, but probably Undertaker and Kane. And then, like, Andre the Giant, you got the Samoans. I mean, there's so many good guys back then. It's tough to pick just 3.
Yeah. Any favorite match of yours personally from your career?
I mean, to say the Kane match at Taboo Tuesday would be kind of the expected answer, but I mean, that was awesome, and it was on my mom's birthday. It was my first pay-per-view, and I beat Kane, so like that's kind of right up there. But the coolest thing to me was like walking out at WrestleMania, and there's 90,000, 80,000 people, and you're like, I'm at WrestleMania. You know what I mean? Like, as a wrestler, that's like the Super Bowl of wrestling.
Yeah.
So for a guy from Nesquehoning, Pennsylvania, town 3,000 people, to walk out at WrestleMania and perform is kind of like, yeah, this is pretty sweet.
Did you have any say in your theme music?
No, they kind of, Jim Johnson at the time kind of geared everything towards your character, so he knew the character and designed it from there. But I love my theme music. Yeah.
Do you think you were treated fairly overall in WWE?
Yeah. I mean, they threw me into a situation. Nobody knew who I was. I basically came out of nowhere, did what I had to do, resonated with the fans. They were forced to bring me back. I ran with it, did what I did, and like I said earlier, 15 years later, we're still sitting here talking about it, so I must have did something good.
You had a short run against Ezekiel Jackson. How was that?
I never really wrestled him. I never wrestled him.
Okay.
Yeah, he was, I think he was officially the last ECW champion, wasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah. But he's a good guy. Him and I tagged up on TNA. So, yeah. I don't even know if he's still even in the business.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a fan, because there was a fan question about that.
Oh, really?
But,
no, he was, he was a big dude. Like, he was big. But I don't know what he's doing now. It's kind of weird. Like, it's like these names you're throwing out at me, it's like, I wonder whatever happened to those guys. Because they're not, like, really staying in the scene,
Yeah, there was a lot from your era that kind of just dropped in wrestling.
It's weird. Like, now that you think of, now that you mentioned it, I'm thinking of guys, I'm like, I don't know whatever happened.
Mike Knox, too, he looks kind of like you. He seems to have disappeared.
I actually pitched an idea at WWE about him and I tag team, and they never did anything with it. I thought that would have been a cool tag team.
Yeah, especially with the beards.
Yeah. And they just, I don't know if they didn't see it or they just had other things on their plate, but they never really went with it. But I did pitch that idea too.
What was your favorite arena to perform in?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, as a kid, I'd always go to the Spectrum to watch wrestling. So I always wanted to wrestle in Philly. I grew up outside of Allentown and used to go to shows at Stable Arena. So that was one I always wanted to wrestle at. And then obviously, growing up in the Northeast, Madison Square Garden. And I was fortunate enough to wrestle in all three of those places the first year I was with WWE. So I knocked them right off the bucket list to start. So it's pretty cool.
And this is a fan question. You don't have to go into detail of this, but what did you think of the whole Montreal screw job thing? That was before your time in WWE, but...
Well, from what I've seen or heard about it, it was pretty effed up. I mean, to switch the finish like that, no. I mean, I could see why Bret was pretty pissed. I think it was a screw job. Yeah, it sucks. I did definitely put a black eye on the business because everybody, at the time, everybody heard about it. And the rumor is Bret went in and punched Vince in the face and knocked him on his ass. So, if he was that pissed off about it, obviously it was effed up.
Yeah.
Because Bret's been in the business his whole life. And for him to have that reaction, obviously it tells you something was a little fishy.
Were you in the company when the plane ride from hell happened, or was that before your time? Sounds like that would have been fun, though.
Yeah.
And last question from the fan I'll ask is, what are your thoughts on wrestlers using steroids?
Well, I'm one of those kind of guys that, like, marijuana's the big thing now, like legalizing marijuana. I always say, it's your body, you choose to put into it what you want. So I don't really have a view on it. I've never touched them, never done anything like that. I was always just a naturally bigger guy. I always got by just on my talent. I never really had to do anything like that. But, they'll let you drink a case of beer till your liver dies. They'll let you smoke a pack of cigarettes a day till you get lung cancer.
They'll let you tan until you get skin cancer.
Yeah, so where do you draw the line? If a guy wants to take something to make him feel better, look better, perform better, why not? Look at Viagra.
Yeah. That's
same thing. It's a performance enhancer. So, the coffee is.
Yeah.
Like, where do you draw the line? Now marijuana is big in the States, like legalizing it. Colorado's making a killing on it. So now everyone's like, oh, we should legalize marijuana. You know what I mean?
Is it legal in Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Oh, it is legal.
Yeah. Medical marijuana is legal in PA. And for what I've been hearing, they're trying to push it through legalizing it straight across the board. So
it is in Canada now, but it's you can't just go into a shop and buy it. You gotta order it.
Yeah, to me it's your body. Who am I to tell you what you can or can't do? I had a friend growing up whose dad would always say, it's funny that you asked that question because my one friend's dad would always say, now remember guys, anything in moderation is not going to kill you. So just don't go overboard with it and you'll be fine. Like, I always remember him saying that because we always used to go out drinking. Like, all the parents knew you were drinking back then. And they were like, just moderation. And we'd always joke around about it. So, looking, to that question, it's like, how do you determine how much beer is okay to drink? How much do you determine how many smokes are okay to smoke? Like, how do you determine how many Viagras are okay to take to your, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't know. There's such a stigma with it that it's like, And let's be honest, there's no professional athlete that's 100% natural. They're always taking some type of supplement or some type of stimulant or some type of something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way it is. Everybody's looking for the edge to get better. So, if you want to do it, hey, have at it. It's your body. I don't condone it. I don't, say, yeah, but ultimately you're going to do what you got to do. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. And if you're not born with size or strength or any of that kind of stuff, most guys will experiment with it. But, like I said, I've always been like bigger guy, naturally stronger guy. Like when I was a kid, I'd come home from school, there'd be a ton of coal in the front yard. I had to shovel a ton of coal in the coal buckets, carry it around the back of the house and put it in the coal bin. So doing that kind of stuff, you're just gonna get stronger. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. But yeah, I don't know. I guess to each their own. And if that's the route you choose to take, try to be safe with it or careful or however you can do it. I mean, I don't know. Never really got into that side of anything. Took pain pills once in a while here and there just because of the nature of the beast. You're bouncing around, you're sore all the time, you're in a rental car, you're in a different bed, da-da-da-da-da. Like, that's the only stuff I really ever took. And that was just for more of a comfort thing. Because you're always sore, you're always stiff, you're always uncomfortable. So, that's about all I've ever really experimented with. All, prescription, obviously. I'm not gonna take something that I have no idea what the hell it is. Yeah. So, safety first.
You brought up Viagra. Your wife's in the room, so maybe this isn't a question necessarily for you, but is there one town that you noticed had the best arena rats for wrestlers?
I never got into the whole rats thing, man. Like, as you can see, I'm almost 50 years old and I take pretty good care of myself. I don't want to stick my you-know-what into something that's going to make it fall off. So, I was never into that whole scene. We'd hit Hooters in a strip club or, whatever, but wasn't my cup of tea, man. If I don't know, just always with the AIDS stuff going around and all that kind of shit. Is it really worth it? I don't think so. You always have your hand.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Was it there for you as a wrestler, though? Did you have,
Well, there's always, girls hanging out at the hotels and at the shows. And, every time we did tours, everybody knew what hotel we're staying at. So there'd always be girls hanging around and just, whatever. But I was never one to risk my health over some sort of instant gratification. Because I always knew someday I was going to do other things besides wrestle. I didn't get into wrestling to wrestle till I'm 60 years old. Like I said, I've always been an athlete. I played pro sports, wanted to wrestle, did it. Now I'm doing the movie thing. I like setting goals for myself and just constantly moving forward. I just got inducted into the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame last year, so that's one of my biggest accolades that I'm most proud of. Because it's not just because of wrestling, it's because of my whole body of work as an athlete. So that's cool. That's my most precious achievement, so to speak.
Would you ever get into politics like Kane now is the mayor of Knoxville?
No, not my cup of tea. I'd be too offended. I'd offend too many people.
Did you ever wrestle Bob Holly?
Yeah, Bob's great. Yeah, always had good solid matches with Bob. Yeah, real good guy. I think he still wrestles.
Yeah.
He's still doing some stuff. Yeah, Bob's a good guy. Yeah. No, always had fun working with Bob. A funny story about Bob real quick. We were wrestling in New York and we had a spot set up in a match where he hit me in the head with a chair, and I forget exactly how the finish was supposed to go, but he hit me with the chair and my head split open. I ended up getting 7 or 8 stitches or staples or something, and he hit me and the blood just spewed out of my head, and I was selling and I saw the blood and I was like, get the chair, hit me again. And he's like, what? I'm like, hit me again. So he hit me again, and I was like, blood everywhere. I was like, oh, this is so cool. We got back, and the doctor on hand's like, oh, you're going to need stitches. I'm like, all right. he's like, I don't have any anesthesia or whatever the hell they call it that they shoot in there. I was like, I just stitch it up. So I'm sitting there getting stitches, and Bob comes back. He's like, you all right? I'm like, hell yeah. And he's just shaking his head. He's like, you're effed up, man. I was like, it was a good spot in the match. It's a funny little story.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, with your size, you probably would have done well in MMA. If it had been more popular after football, do you think you would have considered that?
It's hard to say, because I'm like a spur of the moment kind of guy. Like, I always wanted to do wrestling, and then when football finished, I was like, I'm doing wrestling. So it was like, I didn't put a lot of thought into it. I just knew I was going to do it. So, like, if MMA was like it is now, back when I was 10 years old, I might have been flipping through the channels and saw that and decided to do that instead of wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was more of like, it caught my attention as a child and I wanted to do it. You know what I mean? So, like, maybe. I can't really say for sure because I wasn't put in that situation. But it's definitely, like, I've trained with, one of my buddies had a dojo in Nesquehoning, buddy of mine, Kevin, and he had Kevin Dillon, he was like a competitor and did all the Tong Sudo, I think we were doing. And I've worked out with him a bunch of times and stuff, and still have my gi and all that. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe. Yeah.
What do you think of today's wrestling products? I know you don't follow it that closely, but there's a lot of companies out there.
I don't want to be like totally demeaning to anybody, but today's wrestling isn't the type of wrestling that probably would have caught my attention as a kid through the channels. Like, my wife and I DVR it and we'll watch it, and there's like a lot of it I fast forward through, to be quite honest with you. Like, it doesn't interest me. Bray Wyatt, probably my favorite guy. Braun Strowman, I enjoy watching. They're probably the only two guys that like I really get excited about seeing. The other stuff, so much cookie cutter stuff now, it's like I can't get into it. Like, and all the guys, it's like there's no larger than life characters. There's no guys that make you go, wow, that guy's gonna kick somebody's ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I liked about it when I was a kid. And I'm not saying it because I'm a bigger guy. Obviously, when I was 10 years old, I wasn't this big.
Yeah.
So, like, that's just what caught my eye. And I could always remember, like, seeing the guys and being like, wow, those guys are so, like, impressive and larger than life. And, like, now you watch wrestling and it's like, my wife's bigger than 90% of the guys.
You know, and that is true, but your wife is also larger than a normal guy, but yeah, it is true.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife's like a former volleyball player. She's 6'1", jacked. I mean, anybody who follows me on social media sees all our workout stuff. I mean, like, she's like, man, I'm bigger than most of these guys. I'm like, yeah, you could probably kick most of their asses too. It's like there's no more aura of ass-kicking guys. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like, back in the day, if you saw a pro wrestler out in a bar, you were like, wow, I ain't messing with that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, now you see them and it's like, hell, I could kick his ass.
They wouldn't even stand out most of them now.
Yeah. It's like, it's crazy to me. Like, to me, like, I want to see somebody where I'm like, wow, look at that guy. Like, somebody you don't see every day. You know, that's like the whole encapsulation of your emotions. Like, wow, that guy's gonna tear somebody's head off. Or, man, like, when the Ultimate Warrior would come out, you'd be like, look at this guy. He's like, doing all the stuff, and he's jacked, and he's like slamming people, and it's like, you saw him out on the street, you'd be like, damn, look at that guy.
Yeah. You
know? Now it's like you said, you see somebody, you're like, oh, I'm a professional wrestler, you kind of laugh. You're like, really? Like, it's I don't even know the word I want to use. It's just not exciting to me. Like, if I see a 180-pound guy wrestling a 180-pound guy, like, it does nothing for me.
That's a high school fight.
Yeah. It's like, some of the guys look like they're 12 years old. It's like, you know, hit the gym, take care of yourself, do something. I mean, I don't know. Maybe because I'm an athlete and I've been an athlete all my life, and I've played pro sports and I know what it takes to get to that level. Like now, you could just throw on a pair of sneakers and a pair of shorts and be like, "Oh, I'm a professional wrestler." Like, I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. You know.
And how did you transition into movies?
Well, another thing I've always wanted to do on the bucket list, and same thing as wrestling, man. I was a kid flipping through the channels and you saw Friday the 13th or Halloween and you were like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like just the music and it's just, I mean, it was awesome. When you grew up in those times, that was just the thing. It was like, oh, Friday the 13th. So for me, like I said, it was just a natural progression because that's just who I am. And, you know, I like to set goals and do different things, and that was just something I always wanted to do. And I was fortunate enough to meet the right people, and I had an idea for a film, and I threw it out there, and we wrote it up and shot it, and it came out really good. And, you know, very proud of it. We won the Best Horror Feature Film at the Philadelphia Film Festival. A lot of other awards as well, but we're on Prime, Amazon, iTunes, Redbox, all that. So any of you people up there in Canada, 100 Acres of Hell, check it out. What's your cable company up there?
Rogers is one of the main ones.
But you have like Amazon
Netflix
Prime and everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, all that. 100 Acres of Hell, 100 Acres of Hell. I co-wrote it, co-produced it, starred in it, fight coordinator, stunt coordinator. So wore a lot of hats. Very proud of it. Came out awesome. If you guys are into like the 80s slasher flicks, check it out because I wanted to do a homage to that, and I think we hit a home run with it.
Did you fund it yourself too?
Some of it, and then called in a lot of favors. I know a lot of business people, and one of my friends actually owns the airport in Reading, Pennsylvania, so got a helicopter for free, an airport for free.
Wow.
Which is, if you're paying for it, talking a lot of money. So.
What matches of yours would you recommend to a fan if they're just watching my channel for the first time and they haven't seen your career? What would you suggest them to go watch?
That's a tough one. Well, obviously go see the Taboo Tuesday match with Kane. I'm not sure when the episode aired where I hit him with the chair and he fell on Lita, but you definitely want to check that one out. Check out the Royal Rumble match that we talked about earlier where I got whacked square in the eye, because you'll see it and you can see how pissed I am, and Maven was like, oh. And then it was fun because I got to bend the chair over his head, like I said, so he got his payback. But yeah, those three are probably. And then the Royal Rumble elimination with Paul London. That was pretty cool. Our Survivor Series was the one with Maven. The Royal Rumble was the one with Paul. So check those out. That clothesline's always like, every time I watch it still to this day, I'm like, ooh.
Did you ever have any issues with Bradshaw? You don't seem like a guy that you would have picked on, but he was...
No, he didn't pick on me. We actually got along really well because he's a former football player too, so we'd always talk football and sports and stuff, and man, I never had any problems with him.
Did you notice any of some of the other stuff?
Oh yeah. He tortured Miz like you would never believe. Threw him out of the locker room, made him dress in the hallway, all that kind of stuff. Oh yeah. He had his moments.
So if people want to book you now, do they do it through ESS Promotions if they want to bring you?
You could do it that way, or if you want to just contact me directly, you could do book Snitsky at AOL.com. I handle all my own bookings through there. Do a lot of convention stuff now. I started getting into the Comic Cons because of the movie and all that kind of stuff. So doing a lot more of the conventions and the Icons of Wrestling we just did today. Just reach out. If we can make it work, we'll make it work. Like I said, I have the business now, Priority One Surplus in Hamburg, Pennsylvania. So pretty busy with that, and that's doing well, knock on wood. So I got a great life, man. I'm beyond happy. I got a great wife, nice house, nice gym. Couldn't really ask for anything more. I'm doing all right.
And for social media, where can we follow you?
Twitter, at Big Gene Snitsky. I'm verified, so look for the blue check mark. Instagram, The Real Snitsky. And I don't really do much Facebook stuff with wrestling, so hit me up on Instagram or Twitter for that. But if you want to check out the film, there's 100 Acres of Hell on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Give it a watch. Hit me up. Let me know how you liked it. I'm always there for the fans, man. I'll always take time to answer and shoot the shit with everybody. So without the fans, there'd be no Snitsky. So I'm not one of those kind of guys that ever turns down autographs or pictures or any of that kind of stuff. I like my fans. They're obviously pretty good.
Are you going to be doing other films?
Yeah, we have a synopsis for part 2 of the film already, and obviously it depends on how well the first one does, but got contacted to do a few other things, but I'm kind of putting it off till I see how the film does.
All right, well, thanks a lot for talking to us. Can we get your wife in to say hi? No, she's not.
Good luck with that. But
I don't want to piss her off anyway.
Yeah. She's awesome. My wife, Carolyn, everybody, like I said, that follows me on any social media platform, see her and I, because we're always posting goofy videos down at the dungeon, so check those out. All my Canadian fans, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Like I said, there'd be no Snitsky if it wasn't for all you fans. Keep watching for me, because you never know where I'll show up. And check out the film 100 Acres of Hell. Hit me up, let me know how you like it. And check out the store, PriorityOneSurplus.com. All the good stuff, all the surplus stuff, military, camping, all kind of stuff. So check that out, and thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Could we get It's Not My Fault?
If all the people in Canada don't watch the Hannibal TV, it's not my fault.